When it comes to American muscle cars, nothing screams it quite as loudly as a Dodge Challenger. This vehicle is one of the oldest new vehicles that you can buy currently on the market today. And for 2023, it is in its final model year, which has prompted Dodge to introduce several last call versions to kind of commemorate the heritage of the Dodge Challenger. This week, as you can see, we are testing out the 6th version of the special last call models. This right here is the 2023 Dodge Challenger Black Ghost. It's designed to basically commemorate a Dodge Challenger from the 1970s that used to rule the streets of Woodward. And with the same SRT Hellcat-powered engine from the Super Stock, this vehicle here essentially makes over 800 horsepower going to only the rear wheel. So if you guys are looking for a classic American-made muscle car that will quickly become a collector's vehicle, how does the brand new 2023 Dodge Challenger Black Ghost stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about all the special styling details of the Dodge Challenger Black Ghost, I thought I'd pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now, Dodge offers a plethora of different engine choices for the Challenger body style in general. This model here essentially has the second most powerful tune of the 6.2-liter supercharged V8. Now, one of the interesting aspects about the Black Ghost is the fact that it kind of is a throwback to the 70s Charger, right down to the Mopar hood pins. As you can see, to open up the hood, you have to first pop the hood release underneath the driver's area, and then you have to basically remove these little pins, which again, they are designed to help hold the hood, especially if you're going triple-digit speeds. And it's kind of a cool detail, actually, because once you open up the hood, you can see it'll pop open, and then there's the usual latch, but then when you pop open the hood, take a picture of this glorious engine, because as you guys can see, this is an engine that is simply just beautiful. I mean, this is the company's tried and true 6.2-liter supercharged pushrod V8. This engine, again, is a Hemi. It has been around since 2015, and I've always loved the Hellcat engine. Of course, Dodge has always been turning up the wick constantly, and in this model here, the 6.2-liter pushrod V8 with that 2.7-liter supercharger that's bolted on top delivers 807 horsepower and 707 pound-feet of torque. Now, compared to the base Hellcat powertrain, this makes about 90 more horsepower, and it also makes 10 more horsepower than the Hellcat Redline. This essentially has the same power as the Super Stock, which got a reprogrammed ECU to make the additional power. And if you guys remember the Dodge Demon from 2019, that had 808 horsepower. So this essentially has the same tune. Keep in mind, however, this is not the most powerful version of this engine. There's also the Demon 170 that offers 900 horsepower on pump gas, or 1,025 horsepower if you run it on E85. Now, this vehicle here only offers an 8-speed automatic transmission. Dodge now offers a manual again on lower powered versions of the Hellcat engine. Remember, this is the high output version, which you technically cannot get with a manual in the high output form, but still 717 with a manual is certainly still plenty of power. This model here uses the Torque Flight 8-speed automatic transmission. Rear wheel drive is your only grip source, basically, or drive wheels when you guys go for the Hellcat engine. You can get all-wheel drive on the Challenger, but only on the V6 Pentastar model, which is sacrilege. I really wish Dodge would have considered putting all-wheel drive with this powertrain. It would make it so fast. Fuel economy is rated at 13 in the city, 21 on the highway. It's hit with a $2,100 gas guzzler tax. Again, 1321 is awful. It's got an 18.5-gallon gas tank, so you're looking at around 300 miles of range on a full tank. 0 to 60 performance, Dodge claims this can do it in as quick as like 3.5 seconds, but we'll try it out. I've never 0 to 60 tested this vehicle, and it's going to be a handful. Top speed is just a ludicrous 203 miles an hour, and as this vehicle sits, it weighs in at just over 4,500 pounds. So this is a big, heavy car. But let's go ahead and close up the hood. And as you can see, when you close up the hood, the pins line up perfectly, which is wonderful. And then you have to manually do this, insert that, and then kind of flip this over. That's kind of what locks it in. Again, I've never had to do this before, but I think this is a really cool retro touch, and it certainly looks great. Now, looking at the styling of the 2023 Challenger, you can see nothing really has changed, although in 2015, Dodge gave it a pretty heavy, significant refresh. So it's been almost a decade since Dodge refreshed the Challenger. But remember, this car came out in 2008, so it's an old vehicle. You can see the hood has the dual snorkel design. That's an indication that you have the Hellcat Redline engine, because Only the Hellcat engine has those dual snorkels. You can see it's got this Dodge badge here that's spelled out on the hood, which, ignore that little broken part there. That's again to commemorate the 1970s Challengers. You can see the front fascia. The headlights have that unique design with the actual intake in the actual LED daytime running light and turn signal. You have bi-xenon headlights. Your only indication that this is the Hellcat engine is the fact that you have the SRT Hellcat badge that's kind of hidden in the grille. Everything else with the Challenger script there, the classic Challenger script, the front skirt, it kind of just reminds me a little bit of a Scat Pack. It doesn't look like a Hellcat engine, which is kind of what makes this car cool. It makes it look like a sleeper vehicle because a lot of people don't know that it's the Hellcat engine unless you look for the right signs. The SRT badge in the grille, the dual snorkel hood. As I move around the side profile, the Challenger still looks great today. And that's kind of what's cool about this car is it looks retro modern, or it looked retro modern back in 2008, and it still looks like that today. Remember, this is built on a super old Mercedes architecture. It has the wide body package with the Black Ghost as standard, so you have a 3.5 inch wider body versus the standard Challenger. You can see the wheels. These are the Warp Speed carbon wheels. They're a 20 by 11 inch wheel on a 305 with Pirelli P0 all-season tire. These wheels again have like a satin chrome finish, and then you have the massive 15.4 inch slotted rotors at the front with the 6-piston Brembo black painted calipers that's included with the Black Ghost model, along with the wider fenders. You also have the Challenger script there, which again is the heritage style script instead of the SRT Hellcat badge. And then also over here on the roof, you have this gator skin wrapped vinyl roof, which again is a throwback to the 1970s Challenger that used to rule the streets of Woodward, basically driven by a cop, Godfrey Qualls, who would essentially just disappear every time that he would win a race, and that's for good reason. He's racing and he was a cop. So looking at the rest of the profile here, this is a big vehicle at 197.5 inches long. It has a 116 inch long wheelbase. So again, much bigger than a Camaro or a Mustang, which by the way, the Camaro was discontinued. This is also a unique feature of the Black Ghost is the chrome fuel filler cap. You'll be opening that quite often to fill up this massive fuel tank at 18.5 gallons. The rear tires, again, only 305 width. It struggles to put the power down. We'll talk about that later on during the driving scene. You can see the other homage here is the white tape stripe over the rear of the vehicle. That again is a throwback to the 1970s model. You can see it's got the Challenger script here. There's no indication that this has the Hellcat engine from the back. So again, its sleeper status is really great, and that's probably why so many people love the fact that this model here doesn't really shout that it has the Hellcat engine. You can see the exhaust tips. They're actually kind of plain looking. They're just a rectangular dual exhaust outlet. However, the exhaust is bloody loud, so let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how it sounds real quick. And unlike the Ford Mustang, Dodge does not offer a quiet mode, so you're going to be pissing off your neighbors every time you start this vehicle up. But boy, I'm going to miss that sound of American muscle when the Challenger goes completely electric. Now, opening up the trunk area, you can see the taillights, which I forgot to mention, are full LEDs, and again, they're a throwback to the 1970s Challenger. But looking at the trunk capacity, the Challenger continues to have one of the biggest trunks in the class at 16.5 cubic feet. It's got kind of a higher liftover height, but the opening is quite large. The seats fold down in a 60-40 manner. And then if you look underneath here, you can see there is no spare tire in this vehicle. Instead, you just have a fix-a-flat kit, and then your Harman Kardon stereo and the rear and the battery. The 12-volt battery lives back here for weight distribution, or at least to add more weight to the rear. But overall, you can see if you need to use this as a practical family car, the trunk certainly will swallow a week's worth of groceries from Costco or something like that. So moving on to the interior of this 2023 Dodge Challenger Black Ghost. Before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see, because it's a Hellcat powered vehicle, it does have the red key. It also comes with a black key, which limits the power to 500 horsepower. But when you guys have the red key, this is what unlocks the full 880 horsepower. I also love the demon-possessed cat logo, because remember, this has the red-eye tuned engine with the SRT badge. The key itself is pretty old. You can see it's got the usual unlock, lock, pop open the trunk, remote start, and panic feature. I don't believe this vehicle has access to a smartphone app where you could remote start it through there, but I'm not entirely sure. It is an old car. You can see even the door handle has a really old design. It does have a little button here at the top. You push that button, that's what locks the door for you. Touch the back portion of this door handle here. That's what's going to unlock the door for you, as you can see. And once you open up the door, the interior of this vehicle is black. There's only one color combination, the pitch black exterior on the outside, and then the black interior with the suede Alcantara. Again, these are the SRT specific sport seats, which they are definitely going to hug you in place a little bit more than usual, but they also look like they're kind of accommodating or trying to accommodate somebody of a wider frame as well. I find them to be relatively comfortable, but on longer trips, I was squirming a little bit for more support. So try the seats out for yourselves before you buy this vehicle. You can see the seat is actually kind of a mixture of power and manual control. It's got a manual recline, but it's got a power for the seat bottom cushion. It's got four-way lumbar. The door panel material here you can see has a soft touch material with leather and actual stitching here with the suede Alcantara. It's also padded right here. Again, a lot of the controls in switchgear are super old. You can see this is older Mercedes style switchgear. The windows are one touch down, but not one touch up. I'm annoyed that it's not one touch up. You have the Harman Kardon stereo. A little bit of storage over here, but not much. Your door handle is chrome accented and it's down there. And then you can see there's an SRT specific sports steering wheel with the SRT logo that actually glows red at night, which is kind of a nice little touch. Now, getting inside, you can see it's got that low step in height, and gosh, it's warm out here. It's not that warm out here, but the black interior is just absorbing all the heat. You can see it does have two-person memory seats. As I shut the door, the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk still, which is actually surprising. And then you can see, because this is a limited edition model, it has the upgraded full leather stitch dash along with the genuine carbon fiber that you find splashed throughout the interior. Now you can see red start stop button, push that. The engine itself just roars to life, and it constantly reminds you have something special. This is a Black Ghost specific gauge cluster with the demon-possessed cat that kind of reminds you again, you have the faster Hellcat Redeye engine, along with reminding you that you have the red key in use, which is nice. And then basically you have a mixture of analog with the instrument panel here. There's a digital gauge cluster with traditional analog for the speedo and the tachometer. And then you have an 8.4-inch Uconnect 4 head unit here, which again, this is the older system. I was hoping the Dodge would eventually put the Uconnect 5 system in here like they've done in the Durango Hellcat, but again, you can't really get that in this vehicle, but you do still have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's a wired connection Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. And this system here actually, I will say, is surprisingly more snappy and responsive at times versus the Uconnect 5 system. There's heated and cooled seats, which is definitely a nice touch. I love the fact that it's Alcantara and you can still get cooled seats. It's really appreciated when you have a black interior like this. And then you can see access to your different controls here, access the apps. There's also a built-in GPS, which the map display doesn't look really super special or anything like that. This is perfectly fine. I do like the fact that, again, you have the stitching on the actual dash. This is not real leather, though. It's the faux stitching material. And then you can see the steering wheel itself has these metal paddle shifters, which are a little bit on the small side. They're actually only half. They're not going all the way down here. They're only at the top here. You have this Alcantara on the wheel, which looks nice when it's new, but it'll look like crap after a few years when the oil in your hands gets absorbed by it. It's got a power tilt telescoping steering column, which is nice. You have controls here to control that display here. There's no adaptive cruise. I don't think it's available on the Black Ghost. It's available on other trims. The horn, it sounds pretty nondescript, but at least it doesn't sound puny and whatnot. Down here you can see you have your volume knob, you have your SRT drive mode selector. So if I push that, it'll take you into the SRT drive modes, which you can access right here between track, sport, custom, and automatic. And there's also an eco mode where you can put it in and out of eco mode, where it'll limit the power to just 500 horsepower or give you the full fat 807. There's also a custom mode, which I prefer. And then if you'd like, you can kind of go into the race options, and you can go to the line lock, where you can essentially do a burnout to warm up those rear tires. You can activate the launch control, where you can set the RPM. I will try that out later on during the driving scene. There's also a chiller function, which essentially will direct the cold air from the air conditioning system into the intake to help cool the air to give you maximum power. And then there's also shift lights that you can turn on and off, which again is all showing the true performance intentions of this vehicle, which is pretty nice. The one thing that is a huge disappointment, however, is the backup camera. You can see really crummy resolution. It has trajectory and distance markers and parking sensors, but again, it shows off the age of this vehicle, with this being a very, very old platform. Down here you can see you have your dual zone climate control, this really nice shifter for the 8-speed auto with an actual manual mode. I actually prefer this shifter a lot. There's a little bit of storage here, cup holders here. No ambient lighting in this car. It's actually very dark in this vehicle at night, surprisingly. And then if you open up this, you can see your 2 USB charging ports in there. They're both USB-A's. You'll be using that a lot to connect your phone via Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. The seats themselves, like I said earlier, I like the fact that they're suede Alcantara and they're heated and ventilated, but try the seats out for yourselves. Make sure you're comfortable in them. For me, they weren't super comfortable on longer trips. Open up the glove compartment, you can see it is a pretty big glove compartment with a bin style that's stamped and lined with felt, a little bit of extra storage over there, which is good because you don't have much storage here in the center console. You have an auto dimming rearview mirror. You have basically incandescent bulbs for the map lights. There is a suede Alcantara headliner that's included with the Black Ghost trim. And overall, even though it may look really nice, the interior itself has somewhat nicer materials like the genuine carbon fiber, but it constantly reminds you that you're in a much older style FCA or Stellantis vehicle. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat because the Challenger does actually have a usable back seat. When you want to get back here, you essentially want to pull this seat belt out of its like holster, and then you want to pull this open or pull this forward. You can see the seat on the driver's side does not move forward because it's power. However, it does on the passenger side. So let me actually get over there to the passenger side and show you guys the entrance, because if you guys are going to plan to carry people back here, you're going to want to do it from the passenger seat. So as I do that, you can see the seat slides forward because this is a manual passenger seat. And then once I get back here, I will say that the space is surprisingly good back here. So once I get back and move the seat all the way back, you can see I can ask the passenger to move their seat forward slightly. My knees are up against the seat back, but again, there is about 33 inches of legroom is what Dodge is claiming, which is not bad. Obviously, you can fit a middle passenger here. It actually will seat 5, but that will kind of get in their way. There are rear seat air vents, which is surprising. You also have a nice armrest here that folds down and gives you two cup holders. Materials back here are hard touch plastic, but in terms of the headroom space, you can see at 5'7", I actually can sit back here and sit all the way back. My head doesn't touch the roof. If you're over 6 feet, however, it's not going to be enough space, but still overall, if you're looking for a muscle car that actually has a back seat that can hold adults, average size adults, the Challenger is still the only vehicle in the class that can do that. So in a world that's full of electrification and self-driving cars, to be driving something as old school as this vehicle, the Black Ghost, is definitely a refreshing change for me, especially since I haven't driven anything that's like a Challenger or Charger with the Hellcat engine in probably almost 3 years. I mean, this is, again, the last call for a vehicle like this because 2023 is the last model year for the Challenger and the Charger before Dodge decides to go electric, or there's rumors of an inline-6 twin turbo being put under the hood. And this model here essentially has the same horsepower as the discontinued Demon from 2019. Of course, there's the Demon 170 above this that has 1,025 horsepower running on E85, but still 807 is a scary amount of power to just be routing to the rear wheels. Now, the one thing I've never done is actually 0 to 60 tested a vehicle like this, or any of them. They just don't hook up very well, and I'm really not anticipating this to actually hook up well at all, but we're gonna give it a try anyways and hope we don't kill ourselves. It does have launch control, and you're going to be wanting to use it, launch it at a very low RPM because this vehicle, again, just doesn't put the power down well. To activate, just hit activate launch. It allows you to press the brake quickly. Oof. 4.37 seconds. Again, this car is capable of a 3.5-second launch to 60, but that represents a real-world time there because even with launch control, these 305 with Pirelli P0 all-season tires struggle to put the power down. And again, I don't like using launch control or launching a vehicle like this out on public roads because it just attracts so much attention to itself with how much noise it's making from the exhaust and the tire screeching and the fact that you constantly have to drive this car with caution. It demands respect because it has so much power going to just the rear wheels that it just begs the question, why didn't Dodge put all-wheel drive in this car? Like, they do have all-wheel drive on the GT V6 powered Challenger, but again, without all-wheel drive in a car like this, basically the result every time you try to go is just put your foot down, it spins out the tires, and that's literally just a quarter throttle. Which again, some of you may prefer that drama. There's a lot of frickin' drama with this car, and you hear a constant wail from the supercharger. It's just a lovely sound, which honestly is competing with the loud exhaust noise of this car, because anytime you push the engine past 4,000 or 5,000 RPM and it shifts, it has those bangs and those pops from the transmission shifting, from the exhaust, and it sounds glorious. I love the sound of it. But again, I'm not gonna refrain from doing another 0 to 60 test on public roads because you really need a track and you need special tires. You need to warm up the tires using line lock. And that's the kind of the point of the Challengers. It makes you work for that quick acceleration. Because remember, the Demon 170 Dodge claims can get to 60 in 1.66 seconds. Now, of course, that's on the drag radial Mickey Thompsons that it comes with. You have to do the line lock. You have to have a prep surface. There's all these different factors to get the fast speed, which is quite a different change from all these stupid fast electric vehicles with all-wheel drive that literally just you can just grip and just do the fast 0 to 60 time on public roads and it doesn't even matter, and it's no noise and everything. So this is what I love about a car like this is it's a kind of a love-hate relationship because you can have, you know, the visceral, exciting noises from the supercharger whine, the exhaust, the drama from the tires screeching, but then at the same time, you kind of look like a jackass out on the road, especially if you're trying to use it. This 807 horsepower is technically not usable on public roads. It's constantly spinning the tires and you're constantly having to remind yourself, do I have enough traction? Do I have enough space in case I do decide to lose it? For example, here's a real-world example. They are redoing the road on my usual drive route here, and it's kind of like a gravelly road. I would never floor this car on this type of road because it'll literally just spin sideways and I'll crash into someone's house or a pole or end up sideways or upside down. So yes, you have to drive this car with restraint, which is one of the reasons why Dodge, when you switch the drive mode here, you can actually go into auto and go into an eco mode. I have it in the eco mode now, and the eco mode limits it to 500 horsepower, which I know 500 horsepower is still a lot, but that's now been demoted to an eco mode on a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, which again, this is the Black Ghost with the super stock tune on it. It's got a 2.7 liter supercharger that literally puts out 15.3 pounds of boost, which isn't a lot. The Demon 170 does 21 pounds of boost, and that's the reason why it does 900 horsepower on regular pump octane and 1,025 on E85. So again, this is a car that just puts some hair on your chest. It makes you think twice before putting your foot down. But here, we have it in eco mode now. I'll put my foot down. It's still in eco mode. It's spinning the tires, but I can feel that it doesn't feel as fast. Like in 807 horsepower mode, it's literally like pushing you back with this wave of torque. In eco, it feels like I'm towing something, which is fine. On normal roads, this is how you want to drive the Challenger. You want it to drive, or you want to drive it in this mode because you can't use all 807 horsepower again on the road. But surprisingly, I will say that the Challenger wide body package with the 305 width tires, this thing can actually put it or handle its own when you find some corners. And that's the thing, it's all about trust with this car. You start pushing it harder and harder. The front actually has a ton of grip because it has 305 width tires. The steering, I will say, is not very good in terms of feel. It's relatively quick, but you're still dealing with a 4,500 pound car. And the ride quality of this vehicle is a mixed bag because it does have adaptive dampers, but the wide body includes the stiffer spring rates on the suspension. And it's constantly doing this kind of like wallowy feel. Every time you hit bumps, you feel the body fluttering around and the adaptive dampers are trying to quell it, but it almost feels like the chassis just doesn't feel stiff enough. It doesn't feel like it handles the stiffness of the suspension very well. Because remember, this third generation Challenger has been out since 2008. It is an old bitch, and I'm very much looking forward to the new version whenever that comes out for 2025, because it'll be on an all new chassis, it'll be all electric, or there's rumors of an inline-6 twin turbo engine. But overall, driving around in this car is kind of like a throwback. It is a time capsule. You have this massive hood bulge of the dual snorkels in front of you. You have this kind of like slit of a windshield that you have to see through, which honestly, it's not as bad as the Camaro, for example. The view out of the back is actually not bad as well. This car just feels damn wide. I mean, it's over 78.5 inches wide. So yes, it takes up the road pretty, massively. And the seats in this vehicle are comfortable, but I will say that after an hour drive in them, I was kind of squirming around. They didn't have enough support for me and my body type. So try the seats out for yourself, see if you like them. And then in terms of the fuel economy, in case you guys even care, 1321 mpg. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged just shy of 14 mpg. That's with it driving in normal city, highway, mixed driving. On the highway, it did get around 20 mpg. So if you put it in eco mode and drive it very efficiently and don't tip into the throttle, it is very, very efficient if it needs to be. On a full tank, it was showing around 330 miles of range, which isn't wonderful considering the size of the gas tank. But overall, again, my personal, choice if I was gonna go with a Challenger is probably the Scat Pack. The Scat Pack with its 485 horsepower has just the right amount of power for this chassis. You can also get it with a manual, which is super cool. I think cars like this obviously are gonna become a collector's vehicle because everything is going electric, and to drive something that's like American muscle like this, it's just a refreshing proposition. This is literally the last true muscle car. I mean, yes, you've got a Mustang that just came out that's new, but the Challenger is going completely electric. We don't know if Chevy's gonna bring back the Camaro. They may bring back the Camaro, but who knows? But really, when everything goes electric, what I'm gonna miss the most is just kind of doing this. Listening to that supercharger whine, feeling the acceleration rush, just all the drama, it's just refreshingly nice. I have to admit, this car still puts a smile on my face, and even though it is not the best in terms of putting its power down and quick straight line acceleration or utilizing all that power on public roads, there is still something uniquely charming about this car, and it's no wonder that Dodge still manages to sell a little over 55,000 of these every year. So as I wrap up my week with essentially the last true American-made muscle car, I'm actually left feeling a little bit sad because even though this car is ancient, it traces its lineage back to the mid-2000 era, there is still something uniquely charming about this car. As you guys saw, driving with this vehicle, or driving it on the street, is kind of a handful. It's constantly reminding you to respect the power that the Hellcat engine makes with over 800 horsepower. 0 to 60 in the real world at 4.3 seconds is nothing to sneeze about. You're going to be losing races to a lot of these quick accelerating electric vehicles, but that's not the point of something like this. The point of this car is essentially to have fun, to treat a vehicle like this with respect, because it commands respect, and the fact that it always sounds good, you constantly hear the supercharger whine and the exhaust, to the throwback feel and how wide the vehicle is, to the stairs. This car still gets a lot of attention out on the road because a lot of people are essentially trying to figure out if you've got essentially a Scat Pack or if you got the Hellcat. And then you also have people in their regular V8 Mustangs or whatever trying to race you because they don't realize it actually has the supercharged engine, which is one of the reasons why people love the sleeper nature of the Black Ghost. It's definitely a unique model, and the fact that Dodge is only going to be building about 300 of these for the 2023 model year is going to instantly make this car a collector's car, because as you guys know, this is one of 7 last call models. It's technically the 6th last call model, the last one being the Demon 170, which essentially Dodge will build about 3,300 of those. 3,000 of those are coming to the US market. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on a 2023 Challenger, the base version, the GT, starts at around $32,500. If you want all-wheel drive, you can basically get that for around $3,000 extra. Now, if you guys want the V8 version, the RT, that's going to come with the 375 horsepower 5.7 liter Hemi. That'll start at around $41,000. The Scat Pack with the 6.4 liter V8 will start at just under $50,000. So basically, you're going to have to spend about 50 grand to get the Challenger, which I think has the right sized engine and the right amount of power. Around $50,000 is pretty reasonable. Now, if you guys want the Hellcat engine, that's going to start at around $74,000. And then if you want the Redline, it's going to add like another $12,000 on top of that. This Black Ghost essentially takes the Super Stocks engine, which starts at around $91,000, and adds all the special detailing, the limited production numbers. This car starts at $103,000, including the $2,100 gas guzzler tax. There are no really other options to add, and I hope you guys like this pitch black exterior color, because this is the only color that they're building it in with the black interior. Again, it's to commemorate the 1970s Dodge Challenger that would rule the streets of Woodward. But again, if you guys are looking for an instant classic that is going to be a rare sight on the roads, that's going to literally be a middle finger to all those electric vehicles and self-driving cars, you should definitely put a 2023 Dodge Challenger at the very top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Dodge Challenger Black Ghost. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.